everybody, it's just me, Adi, again from Adi's Hobbies and Hikes. Just want to point out I've had some fantastic feedback lately from people's emails just pointing out what they think I could do better, at least just on the basic intro of my videos. And the main thing is basically don't make my intros too long and just get on with the video. So with that, I'm going to try and make this ridiculously short. I'm just going to point out 3 points for this video, and it's what happens when you plant really late in the summer, aka the beginning of July, followed on by what I'm doing whilst I'm waiting to be able to plant my winter crops because of the late sowing in summer, and then followed by a brief intro on what I'm doing whilst it's winter growing indoor plants and fruits, including tomatoes. So let's get on with the video. Right, ladies and gents, so I'm just going to point out mostly about the tomatoes because they're pretty much my main crop that's been successful. These were literally planted on the 1st of July from seed. Generally I'd probably get these planted mid-March and so on. Main issue that I'm finding at the moment is although they have got huge amounts of fruit on them and they've done really successful, they should have pretty much started to be fully ripened by now, whereas they're all still really green. So my biggest concern is, are they all going to be completely green before the main frosts come and then it starts to kill the plants? So we'll wait and see. So this is what happens when you plant them late. You get really good fruit, but yet they're taking forever to fruit now because taking forever to ripen because of the cold weather. However, as you can see, there are absolutely hundreds. A couple are starting to ripen now. So the issue with that is I'm basically waiting for these to finish so I can remove these and reuse these crates for winter crops. If you notice, this is the leftovers of my sweet peas. They were all upright. These did go right across the whole crate. I've removed 2/3 of them because I'm just now trying to replant with actually productive stuff rather than stuff you can just put in a vase. So these have only got a couple of days left before I'm going to dig them out and replant. However, already as you can see in here, moving on to the winter crops thing, so because I've got no choice but to overlap what's still growing from summer and what I need to start planting for winter. So there's loads of garlics already starting to sprout. They're starting to sprout really well now because the cold's coming in. There's the leftovers from strawberries that are now going dormant. Carrots are still going. Loads of tomatoes. So winter wise I've replanted loads of potatoes. So these are all starting to pop up. The issue I'm finding, not just with the potatoes but my peas and everything as well, because it's close to the winter, all the birds are now starting to forage. So if you can see in here, a couple of these smaller plants, they've basically been eaten away by the birds and bugs because the cold's coming in. And a couple of random broad beans in there as well. So another late sowing from summer was actually these giant sunflowers. These were also planted in July. Don't get me wrong, they've been really successful, but they should have really been ready to harvest by now. They've only just flowered. So there's about 4 out of the 6 that have now flowered. 2 are still coming through. A couple of the smaller ones over there. But they're doing really well. But again, I'm waiting for these to finish so I can reuse that. That's all rocket that I was growing in the summer. That'll all get dug out and replanted as more rocket, but from winter, because that's all going to seed. So I did mention the peas. Let's go back to the peas. The plan is with these is they're going to be growing all the way up in stakes. I've already got 1 stake ready to go, and there'll be another one once the sunflowers are ready. I use a stake from that. Got plenty of fruit trees that are ready to go dormant through the winter and then get ready to flower next year, give me loads of fruit. So we've got the nectarines, the tangerine, so plum, apple, cherry, pear, they're all dwarf trees. And then obviously the grapes, two of these grapevines, another sunflower. Hi guys, so that was a very brief tour just in the garden. As expected here in Scotland, it is almost mid-October and the weather has turned for the worse. Not that it would affect me, but I don't want the camera getting wet. So just to recap what I've just covered already, obviously the tomatoes, they're doing extremely successful, but I'm just a bit wary about if I'm going to run out of time before they'll all be able to be fully fruited, ripened, because the cold is really coming in quickly now. They're pretty big tomatoes, but again, they're still really green. I know that they do ripen pretty quickly once they're ready to ripen, so I'm trying to stress them a little bit to trick them into survival mode where they're trying to ripen the fruit. So I've rapidly reduced how much water they're getting and everything, but there's not much I can do about that because it keeps raining all the time. So all of the stuff from the summer are all slowing down now, starting to go dormant and everything else. So a lot of plants that I'm going to leave planted that will regrow and reproduce, give me more fruit next year, like the strawberries. A lot of stuff I'm just waiting for it to finish, die off, so I can dig it out and put fresh stuff in. So a couple of things I will be just showing you seed wise, and then we'll move on to the final bit, which is the indoor plants. Okay, I'm just going to quickly show you some of the things that are already planted or I'm about to plant once I've got space for them to be planted. I'm not going to go into the actual specific type of seed. This isn't me advising you on exactly what you should plant for the winter. Say I'm not an expert. This is my first full proper season and I'm learning all the way. However, I've just gone from basic YouTube advice and stuff which you can grow, which is cold hardy or germinates better in the cold, and so on and so on. So I'm literally just going to fly through these. So swede, not planted that yet, but it's ready to be planted. Some turnips, again not been planted yet, ready to be planted. Right, chard. So I've already got quite a few of these planted already in pots. A couple I'm actually growing indoors. I'm just playing around with it and seeing what grows best, what temperatures. But apparently these are quite cold hardy as well. Radishes. So I looked in onto these, and apparently these have got a ridiculously fast turnaround, really fast germination. And there was one particular YouTube video, I can't remember the name of the guy, but he was harvesting these like every couple of weeks. And you're getting about a good 4 or 5 inches long radishes. And obviously these particular ones look like carrots, but they're actually a radish. So I've planted loads of these, and I'm just going to see how they get on. Beetroot. Again, apparently this is another cold hardy plant, and I've got 2 pots already planted with these, and once the sweet peas have been removed, I'm going to plant some more of these in the larger crate as well. Onions, I grew loads of these in the summer. They were very successful, but only to the point where the fact that I was able to grow them, not the fact that how big I was able to grow them. The reason being is because I did not thin these out. Again, it was a trial and error. I had too many growing in one pot. So these are supposed to be the large onions. They ended up growing to the size of a shallot. It was the same with the shallots. The shallots ended up looking like spring onions and so on. So they're all kind of like a size lower than they were meant to be, just because they didn't have enough space. However, planting loads more of these again for the winter and a lot more spaced out. So we'll see how much better they do this time. Several different types of lettuce. Okay, so again, these have already been planted out, and this particular one is, can't even pronounce that one, but that one. This is called a salad stir-fry lettuce, basically a bit like a mixed leaf lettuce. Again, it's been planted. These particular ones actually have really big seeds compared to your normal lettuce seeds. These are huge compared, almost as big as a pea seed. Good old classic little gems. Again, some of them have been planted. Lots of seeds on the floor there. Okay, I've just shown you in the video, these are the peas that I've planted and they've grown really, really well so far. So see how they get on. And the last winter one is the winter cabbage, not because of its name, but these are actually really good to plant in autumn, winter and through the spring. Okay, the last one, completely not a winter growing plant at all, it's the complete opposite. This doesn't like to be germinate. This won't germinate in anywhere pretty much lower than 20 degrees Celsius. But this is kind of like going into now my indoor plant introduction. So basil, I've always wanted to grow basil. It's one of the best things to grow, especially with the amount of tomatoes that I'm getting. This is going to remain an indoor plant even through the summer, and next year when it is summer I'll probably trial some of this outside. However, this will just die as soon as it gets cold. So this is growing indoors and it's also under a growing light. So let's move on to the last bit, which is just some of the indoor plants that are growing, how successful they are, and then at the end of the video. So let's get to it. So somebody told me that one of the clever things with tomatoes, whether this is true or not, is you can take a cutting off a tomato. Obviously I know that you can just replant it and it will regrow into a new tomato plant. But what was interesting is a certain person said, if you take a cutting off a tomato close to the end of the summer season, replant it and plant it indoors, as long as it's not flowering and stuff, it almost tricks it into thinking it's starting a new season. So the potential to get new flowers and then more fruit through the winter indoors is quite high because it's sensing that warmer temperature. And this I only planted about 2 weeks ago and it's already grown by an extra foot. This is constantly under a grow light. Does need staking again, it's getting quite high. So next to it I mentioned about the basil. There's my basil coming on now. That again was from seed. They've just been indoors throughout the whole time. They're doing quite well, especially now that they've got a grow light on them. And then there's my little baby dragon fruit seed. This was grown from a baby cutting, about 3 inches long. It's now about 8 inches long. Again, this is going to stay indoors at least definitely for the winter, and then I'll see how I get on with it through the summer. I'm really looking forward to that dragon fruit. Crossing my fingers with that one. So this is just a couple of things, and this is in the living room window. So it's getting the daylight, whatever exists, and backed up with the grow light. Hopefully you can see this quite well. So these two plants at the back, look at the flowers on that. So these two here, so where my hand go? This one and that one there. These are a determinate cherry tomato plant. This is one of my all-time favourites that have been so successful already. They've been cuttings from the mother plant, which is still growing more fruit, and they're currently indoors upstairs. So I've cut these and I've replanted them. I want to just keep growing them all year round. So we'll see how they get on. A couple of more tomato cuttings from one of the larger tomato plants. These are indeterminate, so it'll be interesting to see how big they get. I'll probably have to start controlling them and cutting off the suckers at the top. Interestingly, I've decided to see what it's going to be like to grow cucumbers indoors. There's loads of videos on this and people are quite successful. So we'll see how I get on with that. And then finally, these two little seedlings just here, as you can see, one there and one there. These are baby lemon trees. Basically all I did with these is I went to the supermarket, bought a lemon, got the seeds out of it, germinated them and planted them. So they are taking a very, very long time to germinate and grow and then everything else. But I think the conditions are now a little bit better for them. It's a bit warmer, they're getting better light from the grow light. So we'll just see how they get on. It'll be interesting to see, because then, like I say, I've got about 14 different fruit trees. So we'll see how they get on. Keep you updated with that. Last but not least, from the indoor stuff, just a couple of trial and errors. Look at the highlighters glowing up. Okay, so just a little propagation thing going on here, and I got some seeds off a friend of mine. He had this little tiny ornamental chili plant, little baby orange capsicum type thing, and it literally just really cool to grow in a little pot. It wasn't big at all, but I says, oh, get a couple of seeds from that, I want to grow it myself, just purely for ornamental. I did try it. It has a really horrible bitter taste to it, but it does have a big kick at the same time. Wouldn't recommend eating it unless you try and cook it or mix it with something. So there's 2 rows of them. As I mentioned, from my favourite determinate cherry tomato plant that I've grown, I've harvested loads of seeds and regrowing them again. And then 3 rows on the right hand side are broad beans. Obviously these are just going to sprout, and then as soon as they're sprouted I'm going to replant them for the winter outdoors. Okay, so just to finalise this video, it'd be really nice to have a camera person, whereas I can actually be in the camera more often, make it a little bit more interesting. So just a few pointers that I've taken away from this initial season of the year for myself. If and when you can plant, when it's recommended, do it. So end of March, April, it allows all your summer growing plants, the whole range of just the summer, and basically allows them to be fully harvested, ready for them to be withered away and so on. So your tomato plants and stuff, they're only going to grow for that once. Once they're finished fruiting, they'll dry out, and then you'll be able to remove them, and it completely frees up your beds, your crates, to plant other things. So I planted them in the end of June, beginning of July, purely because that was when I had the opportunity to start doing it, whilst I was up here constantly. So it's been interesting though, because I'm literally now just playing a waiting game, ready for winter. So I've literally just put stuff in winter-wise whilst there's still summer things growing, and I'll see how I get on. There's probably going to be a lot of root disturbance. The things have just started to grow as I'm removing things, but yeah, it's interesting. I'll just see how I get on with the amount of space that I've got in this small urban garden. Right guys, just finally, again, I've already mentioned these, but highly recommend you plant all these seeds for peas at least. They grow ridiculously easy, they germinate really fast, and with the right conditions, you're going to be really successful with them. Just one top tip, protect them, because whilst they're really small, they are one of the most attractive things. Birds, slugs, anything you want, they'll all go straight to them, and as soon as they've had enough damage on them before they've been able to get big enough, they're pretty much just written off. So grow peas, protect them. Last thing is, yes, obviously this channel's called AD's Hobbies and Hikes. Pretty much you've only ever really seen me doing videos on gardening and occasional camp. One of my biggest hobbies, surprisingly, is actually sailing. It's my all-time favourite hobby, and keep your eyes peeled for a few videos that will be coming up shortly. I've finally been given the opportunity to go and see a friend in Norway. He's got a beautiful yacht out there called Happy Days, and I'm hopefully going to be making quite a lot of footage. There'll be videos covering certain maintenance that I'll be doing on his boat, Norway in general, and most importantly the actual sailing side of it. So hopefully there'll be really exciting videos for you to watch coming up. So keep my fingers crossed, hopefully there'll be some decent videos out of that, and just watch out for notifications. Right, that's me signing off. Thank you very much for watching another episode. I'll see you again for the next one. See you later.